can use basically any color, any pattern, whatever you want. I had some kids that were doing chevrons. I had some students that were doing like a leopard pattern. You can do just about anything. What I don't want you to do is to scribble, and you need to cover about 90% of this paper. I'm not worried about every single area. There's just a little bit of the paper showing through there, but for the most part, I've got that covered. So let's just pretend I'm done with that, and voila, I am. All right. So this has been covered with marker. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my folder cover, and I actually folded this in half like we did with the pastels. This is going to be the front cover here. So I'm going to take my sponge, and I'm going to get a majority of the water out. And then I'm going to just dampen the front or the top of this paper. I don't want it to have puddles of water, but I do want it to be kind of moist to transfer the marker. So I'm going to go over it and over it a couple of times. In fact, I'm going to squeeze just a tiny bit of water on it, and then I'm going to move that water around just a little bit. We don't want it to be shiny, but I'm giving it a chance to absorb while I'm doing this. So the effect I'm going for, and we'll see if it happens, is a tie-dye effect with this. So I've got a little bit of shiny. I'm going to try it. We're going to see how it turns out. I've got enough marker on here. I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to lay this down. And what happens is, even though this marker was wet, it's now, or excuse me, the marker was dry, the paper was wet, and so it's allowing the marker to transfer. And if you see I'm taking my fingers just to kind of move it around and push the marker onto the paper. You might actually be able to do the front and the back, or you might have to reapply some marker. We'll see how it turns out and go from there. All right, so you know what? I like this part. I think it could have been a little bit stand out more here, but that was also a lighter color, so I'm good with that. I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and I'm now going to do the back side. Same way. I'm going to try the paper that I have, just because, like I said, I think there's enough marker on it. Maybe not, but we'll find out. And sometimes it's a matter of how much pressure you put on it too. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time here to push it down, push it down, push it down. And again, it does not have to be the same look as what I have here. You can do stripes, you can do zigzags, and all of that. Yep, you can see that one was a little bit drier. I'm good with this because I know this is the front and this is what I'm going to rely on the most. So I'm going to say, okay, this goes in my tub to dry, and I'm going to see how it turns out tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I took permanent marker and I colored in a lot of this. You'll notice I didn't color up here because I'm going to rely on this just kind of spread around. One thing I do not want to see with permanent marker and rubbing alcohol is that you put rubbing alcohol down and then marker over the top of it, because that dries out the permanent marker. So you need to color in your entire cover first, and then you're just going to dip it in the rubbing alcohol. And what that does is it makes the permanent marker move around. Now, the only other thing I will tell you is, for the other two techniques I've shown you, we had the dull side. With this one, you want to use the shiny side. And you can kind of see, let me zoom in just a little bit. You can kind of see that my yellow and green are blending a little bit more. But if I go into these darker colors, there's a little more of a dramatic effect. So I'm going to kind of blend this in. I want more of a streaky look. I'm going to dip it and see what happens when we get the blue streaking into the violet. In most cases, we wouldn't say that permanent marker can be used as a painting tool, but if you use rubbing alcohol, it becomes a painting tool. Now, you can do as I did, where I just color and then start blending together. You can also take the rubbing alcohol marker that's on your Q-tip, and you can use it as a textural approach. So I'm kind of making this look like a flower, and then the background is like a sky here. So I'm just using a stipple approach back here. All right, now I like that effect. I want to blend this purple a little bit more too. So I use the other side of my Q-tip, and I'm going to dip a little bit more and see if I can blend the purple and the pink together. And maybe since I now have that on the tip of my Q-tip, I'm going to use that to kind of bring in just a little bit of that color also. All right, so it can be used with as a textural approach with Q-tips, or you can blend colors together. But again, remember, do not try to apply permanent marker now, since the rubbing alcohol has been put on there. You've got to put the design on first.